Alright, I'm going to go over this handout, the S4 lines and gradient activities. So you're given 2 points and they're asking you, and they make a straight line, calculate the slope. So using our slope formula, we do y2 minus y1. So here are the y values. I subtract the 2 from each other. And here are the x values. And I subtract those 2 from each other. And then we do 8 minus 4 gives me 4. 5 minus negative 1 gives me 6. And my slope is 2/3. Now if I want to find the equation of a line, I could take point slope form equation, and I now know my slope is 2/3, right? And I could take one of these points, it doesn't matter which one. I could take the 4 and the negative 1. I could have taken the 5 and the 8, it doesn't matter which one, in order to get the equation of a line that goes through this, through these 2 points with this slope. Do distributive property with the 2/3, add 4 on both sides, and we get this answer. Okay, line L also passes through this other point, find y. So here's my equation for the line, because this is line L, right? And it passes through this other point. So I could put in 8 in terms of x, right? Could put in 8 in terms of x, and y, well, we don't know what y is, so we can solve for y, and we put that in there, and we end up with 16/3 plus 14/3, which gives me 30/3, so the y value of this coordinate is going to give me 10. Okay, so next problem. We've got 2 points, find the slope. So once again, subtract the y values, 5 minus 1. Okay, subtract the x values, 4 minus 2. Okay, 5 minus 1 is 3. I'm sorry, 5 minus 1 is 4. 4 minus 2 is 2, so my slope is 2. Okay, let M be the midpoint of the line segment for A to B. So how do we figure out the midpoints? You take the average of the x values, 2 and 4, add them together, divide by 2. Average of the y values, 1 and 5, add them together, divide by 2. So we end up with 6/2, 6/2, my midpoint is 3, 3. Okay, next part. M is the midpoint between A and B. We just figured out the midpoint. Find the equation of the perpendicular line to AB passing through this point. Okay, so if my slope here is 2, then the perpendicular slope is the opposite sign and the reciprocal. Okay, so the perpendicular slope is going to be the opposite sign. So if this is positive 2, we're going to use negative, and if instead of 2, we could call this 2/1, so it's going to be 1/2. So I'm putting this perpendicular slope, and I'm using the coordinates of the midpoint. Okay, so it has to go through M, so I need to use those coordinates, the 3 and the 3. I'm not going to use here for the x and the y values, I'm not going to use A or B, because those are not the midpoint. Okay. The distributive property with the -1/2, -1/2 times -3, that's going to give me positive, this value. And then I add 3 on both sides, and I'm going to get this answer. If I want to rearrange it to be in standard form, to get this answer, I could take this and multiply both sides by 2. If I multiply both sides by 2, I end up with 2y equals -x, and 4.5 times 2 is going to give me +9. So this is the same equation you just see here, but I multiplied everything by 2. 2y minus x plus 9. And then I put everything onto one side of the equation, and we can get x plus 2y minus 9 equals 0. You're more likely to be asked to put it in this form that I've put here on the bottom than up here. So this here is probably the form that they will want on the IB test. Okay. Now this page was just trying to see if you understand the relationships of slope. Okay, so for each of these equations, the first thing I noticed is my slope is negative, and here we have y equals mx plus c, so c is the y-intercept. So where does it cross the y-axis? So let's look at all the y-intercepts. So this is below the x-axis, so that's going to be negative. This is at the x-axis, so that's 0. This is below the x-axis, the y-intercept is negative. Here it's above the x-axis, it's positive. Here it's above the x-axis, it's positive. Here it's right at the x-axis, it's 0. And we look at these slopes, it's going down as you go to the right, so that's negative. This is going down, so it's negative. This is going up, my slope is positive. This is going down, my slope is negative. This is going up as I go to the right, positive. This is up, positive. So now that I know my slopes and my y-intercept information, we can put it into our table here. You might want to hit pause to copy this down. So when is the slope greater than 0? Well, it's going to be positive, right? And when is c greater than 0? Well, that's going to be positive. So when is it positive and positive? I'll look here, and line 5 is positive and positive. So when is c less, m is less than 0, it's negative. And when is c greater than 0, it's positive. So when is m negative and c is positive? So m is negative and c is positive right here, L4. Okay, when is m less than 0? So that's negative. And when is c less than 0? That's also negative. So when are they both negative? I look up here, and L1, they are both a negative slope and a negative y-intercept. Okay, when is m greater than 0? It's positive. When is c less than 0? That's negative. So positive slope, negative y-intercept. And here we have positive slope, negative y-intercept. Line 3. Next one. All right. Here's an equation of a straight line. Write down the y-intercept. So the y-intercept is this value right here. Okay. And then write down the slope. So my slope is negative 1/2. Okay. All right. So if my slope is negative 1/2, what's the perpendicular slope? It's the opposite sign and the reciprocal. So the reciprocal of 1/2 is going to give me 2. The line L2 is perpendicular to line 1 and passes through the point 3, 7. So I'm going to use this perpendicular slope of 2, right? And I'm going to use 3, 7 here. So the x value is 3, the y value is 7. I'm going to put those values in there. Distributive property with the 2. Add 7 on both sides. And then we get here they wanted you to put it into this form. So notice this form, it says ax plus by plus d equals 0. And whenever you see this symbol here, capital Z like this means integers. You're going to see this a lot throughout the next 2 years. Okay. So this is probably the preferred way of writing your equation. Okay. Next problem. We've got the coordinates 4, 3, 7, -3, 0.5, p. Okay, find the slope of AB. So I take change of y minus change of x. So the y values, we got -3 minus 3 divided by 7 minus 4. Okay, that simplifies to this. Perpendicular slope, reciprocal, and opposite sign. Okay, you might want to hit pause if you need to copy this down. Mark, given the line AC is perpendicular to line AB, find the value of P. So once again, perpendicular to AB, so I'm going to use the perpendicular slope, which is 1/2, and I'm using coordinates, this is for line AC. So A is 4, 3, and C is 0.5, p. Right? So the y values are 3 and p. So p minus 3. And the x values are 0.5 minus 4. And I subtract 0.5 minus 4, I get -3.5. And then if I cross multiply, I get -3.5 times 1 equals 2 times p minus 3. I can do distributive property with the 2. And then I've got -3.5 equals 2p minus 6. So I can add 6 on both sides. I get 2.5 equals 2p. Divide 2p on both sides. And then you end up with 1.25. You might want to hit pause to copy this down. Last part. Okay. So, write down the slope of the equation. 3. Whenever you see the words write down, you don't have to show any work. It's just write down the answer. Okay, find the slope that's perpendicular to this. So, opposite sign and reciprocal. Okay, find the equation of the line that's perpendicular to this equation and passes through this point. So, my perpendicular is -1/3, right? And if it passes through 6, 7, then I'm going to be replacing y1 with 7 and x1 with 6. Distributive property with the 1/3. Add 7 on both sides, and we get our equation. Okay, and then let's solve this on another little piece of paper. Okay, so find the coordinates of the intersection. You could use your calculator to do this. So one equation is y equals 3x plus 4. The other equation is y equals -1/3 x plus 9. So if I want things to cancel out, we might want to subtract the y values here from each other. So if I do that, then I'm going to subtract y from y. 3 minus, so if we change the signs of everything, this is going to become plus, and then this is going to become minus, because I'm changing the signs of everything, and we're going to add the columns together. So y minus y is going to give me 0. 3 plus a third is going to give me 3 1/3 x. And 4 minus 9 is going to give me -5. Okay, this is one way to solve it using elimination. Okay, let's write this as an improper fraction. I've got 0 equals 10/3 x minus 5. Okay, let's add 5 on both sides. So we get 5 equals 10/3 x. Okay, we can multiply 3 on both sides. I get 15 equals 10x. And divide both sides by 10. I get x equals 15 divided by 10. So x equals 1.5. Okay, now that I know x is 1.5, let's use one of these equations. So we can say y equals 3 times 1.5 plus 4. Okay, I just used this top equation and replaced x with 1.5. And now I've got y equals 15, carry the 1, 45 plus 4, and add those together, and we get y equals 8.5. So my coordinates are 1.5, 8.5, and that is the intersection between these two lines, and that is the coordinate of the intersection of the two lines. Okay, last problems. Okay, the midpoint M is given with these coordinates, and the midpoint is 2, 3. So when you're finding midpoints, you're finding the average of the x values divided by 2. So my x value is s and -2. Add those together, divide by 2, and we know this m value is 2. So I can do distributive property with the 2. S minus 2 is 4. Add 2 on both sides, we get 6. We can look at the y values here. So 8 plus t divided by 2 is going to give me the y value of the midpoint, which is 3. Distributive property of 2 on both sides. Multiply 2 on both sides, we get 8 plus t equals 6. Subtract 8 on both sides, we get t is -2. So now I know my coordinates here is, instead of s, we're going to have 6, 8. And for b, instead of t, we're going to have -2, -2. All right, find the equation of the straight line perpendicular to AB through point M. So if it's perpendicular, we're going to take the reciprocal. So first we need to find the slope. So to figure out the slope, we do 8 minus -2 and 6 minus -2, and we're going to get a slope of 4/5 using those 2 points. The perpendicular slope is the reciprocal and opposite sign. So now that I've got this new slope, and I'm going to use the midpoint, which is 2, 3. Plug in the 2 value for x, plug in the 3 value for y, do distributive property with the 4/5, sorry. Then I add 3 on both sides, and then we get our answer here. And if I write this in standard form, it looks like this.